Welcome to the Menopause Unplugged Podcast with me, your host, Nikki Oliveira. On this podcast, we will hear from women who are navigating the challenging and transformative journey of perimenopause and menopause. These women have graciously agreed to share their stories and insights, offering a raw and honest glimpse into what it's like to go through this major life transition. From hot flushes to rediscovering themselves, our guests will provide a wealth of knowledge and inspiration for anyone who's going through or will go through menopause. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and join us for a fascinating and enlightening discussion. Hello and welcome to the Menopause Unplugged podcast. I am honoured today to have a VIP guest, friend and mentor Adele Johnson on the podcast today. How are you, Adele?
Oh, I'm super well. Thank you for having me. This is like such a special start to a day.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So Adele, I know you've been quite vocal on your platforms about your menopausal story, obviously entering into perimenopause. So let's start from the beginning. How did you come across the fact that you were perimenopausal?
Yeah, it's actually an interesting journey, but the summarized version of it, because it's quite long. Basically, I was working in senior management inside an investment banking company. So I had a really nice long, 20 odd year career in corporate, and I just started not feeling very well in my mid 30s. So around about 35, give or take, maybe 6 months or so, I just hadn't been feeling great. Just very
Right.
fatigued, not myself, making a lot of mistakes at work. Lots of things were just coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And I had actually at that time been running my business on the side. So, as every beautiful online business will ever start up, we have a bit of our side hustle. And I'd been helping a lot
Yeah.
of women with their own hormone health, their body appreciation, self care. It's always been a big core within my own life. And I was helping
Yeah.
6 other women to do the same. And it just became very apparent the more and more that I started to support more women with their own menopausal symptoms and impacts on life that I had a conversation with one of my mentors. I'm very blessed that I have two very beautiful, powerful mentors in the menopause space. And one of them, Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Zoe Hodson, and I had been having a chat after recording a podcast on testosterone. And she'd said, "How long have you felt like this?" And I was like, I
Yeah.
know where you're going with this. I know what you're gonna ask me next. It's definitely not perimenopause. There's no way it can be. I'm only 35. And long story
Yeah.
short, it took me 18 months of blood works, um, just scans, checks, internals, biopsies, all the things, because they thought that I actually
Yeah.
had cervical cancer. So I had all the checks done. Very blessed,
Right.
very grateful that it's not. It was not. I was very
Yes.
healthy. But there was a lot of impacts and implications that were then had on my life, my marriage, and my career. And I actually became one of the 900,000 women out there today that resigned from the corporate career due to my menopausal symptoms and not having the support in place in the workplace. So one of my biggest values is health. Health came before money. And I actually resigned from that post. But at the age of 37, I then had it confirmed that it was early perimenopause. And I started
Mm-hmm.
my HRT journey then.
Wow. That is quite a journey indeed. So yeah, so yeah, lots of symptoms there that you're bringing up. Brain fog, and obviously that knocking your self confidence, and you had obviously had a lot on your plate at that time, so it must have been quite a stressful experience.
Yeah, to say the least. I
Yeah.
think that probably the biggest impacts of it were around my career. So
Mm-hmm.
something I'd worked really hard for, being quite a bit of a strong pro-female in the workplace. I very much wanted to be one of those women that proved that actually there was no glass ceiling and that we could go as far as we wanted to in male-dominated environments. But actually, perimenopause was almost a kind of a really big anchor, a really big chain weight that pulled me back down to earth with a big bump. And yeah, there was lots of symptoms, Nikki, that just were not nice to experience. And as I touched upon,
Yeah.
my marriage started to suffer. It nearly ended because of it. My relationship with myself, relationship with my children, it was really hard, really, really hard. But I
Mm-hmm.
think something that came really apparent to me very early on was I can either live in this default life of what
Yeah.
perimenopause is bringing to the table, or I can actually design my perimenopausal life in my 30s so that it became my superpower. And I
Mm-hmm.
actually learned a lot about my own body and how to help other women in that space because of it. So I'm very grateful that I went through an early perimenopause confirmation. I don't say diagnosis
Yeah.
because I don't see it as an illness.
Yes. Yeah, it's a bad word. um, so quite a lot of challenges then that you're facing there. So of course, with your career, obviously you overcame that challenge by resigning and just focusing on obviously your side hustle and business. And then so of course, let's dive deeper a little bit into what you just said about issues with your family, challenges with your marriage and obviously with your children. So what did that look like, and how did you I suppose turn that situation around?
Yeah, it was a big one. I think it's one as well that in hindsight, and it's always beautiful to be able to reflect, but reflecting back on,
Mm-hmm.
we're not ever, I suppose one of the big things is we're not ever prepared to be going through menopause or early perimenopause in our 30s. But, here's
No.
one of the big shocking realizations for me. And I don't have any solid research or evidence to back this up, but I actually firmly believe that I am not in early perimenopause. I firmly believe that women go through vast hormonal changes in their mid 30s, not their mid 40s. And because I
Mm-hmm.
was so attuned and in tune with my body, I recognized that this wasn't normal for me. So, that
Yes.
statement aside, I wasn't prepared to then have children. My twin girls are coming up for 13 this year. So they were 10 years old when all this started happening. And for anyone out there listening to this that has 10-year-old girls or daughters, you fully appreciate that that's a big hormonal change in their lifetime, that they are going through their
Absolutely.
own hormonal changes. So no one prepares you for the fact that your own body is going to be going through these changes of lowering hormones. And my twin girls were going through changes of increasing hormones. And it was almost this horrific clash of hormonal energies in our household. My
Yeah.
poor husband, now reflecting on it, he is very much a strong foundation in our family for what he maneuvered in that time. Even the cat is female, bless him. So we went through a period of really intense change. My marriage started to suffer I would say, the biggest impact. I would put everything that I could into my girls, into me, and
Mm-hmm.
surviving that time. So my marriage started to suffer. A few of my biggest symptoms or impacts of early perimenopause were very vaginal. So I had a lot of
Mm-hmm.
discomfort. I had swelling, also known as vaginal atrophy, or
Yeah.
genital urinary syndrome. And that really became quite a big impact for me personally because I would bleed during and after sex. I found it really painful. It wasn't enjoyable. I was very dry. So, vaginal dryness was a really big impact for me. And I
Yeah.
started to recognize that actually I was distancing myself from my husband because I didn't want to get physical with him. I was then
Sure.
creating a divide between him and I because his love language is physical touch. So by me
Hmm.
not having that closeness, he
Yeah.
automatically put two and two together and thought, she doesn't love me anymore. We're not going to survive this time. So it was a very challenging time for us. And then, of course, the kids started to notice, Mum, why do you not cuddle Dad anymore? Mum, why are you and Dad not friends anymore?
Oh, heartbreaking. Absolutely
Yeah,
heartbreaking.
yeah.
And that must have been a real sore point for you, just to go, wow, my kids have picked up on this
Hmm.
now. Something needs to
Yeah.
change, right?
Yeah, definitely. That for me was probably a big awakening of, wow, like this is not just in my own headspace. This is
Yeah.
actually in the household energy. This has been picked up upon, and the
Hmm.
kids are really feeling it. And yeah, they started to show signs of being a bit distressed in the household as
Hmm.
well. So there was this big disjoint and divide between happiness. We didn't really have a
Yeah.
happy household. And what I recognized in this, and this is a really powerful positive thing that comes out of this, is that
Absolutely.
where mum and the female of the household is really feeling strong, feeling happy, feeling energized, feeling connected to herself, we become that kind of ripple effect. We become that radiating energy inside the household. So where
Yeah.
mum or wife or partner or just, that woman of the household is becoming really impacted by the changes. And this isn't
Hmm.
easy for us as women. It's not just as easy as saying, well, I know I'm perimenopausal and I just have to get on with it. There are certain
Yeah.
things we can do to help ourselves, but it it was a challenge to say the least. But certainly knowing that we are that strong foundation of the household, and as soon as
Hmm.
I started to do my own self cares and inner resilience work, that's when
Yeah.
our relationships really improved and enhanced.
Amazing. Yeah. It's so, so important. And I know you said that obviously you went on HRT. I take it that had obviously a big part to play in obviously balancing your hormones to helping you feel better, more like yourself again.
Yeah, it was definitely not an easy thing. I mean, it was an easy decision for me to make to say, okay, now that we know that it is early perimenopause, I am not personally willing to accept the risks to my bones, to my organs, my heart, all these things that the estrogen or estradiol in particular really supports. Can't
Yeah.
really for sure at this point say that it's brain enhancing or brain protective yet, but I'm going to go out there and just say, like, the research is already showing such vast improvements for brain and cognitive health. So we're going to put brain in there as well. So for me, it was a bit of a no-brainer to say I definitely need to replace my estrogen. I already
Hmm.
had progesterone through my Mirena coil, which was already there for contraceptive reasons. So it did feel quite straightforward in my own knowledgeable mind space. But the first day that I picked up the prescription and I brought the prescription home, I remember WhatsApping Dr. Zoe Hodson saying, is it normal for me to be crying right now and be really quite low and upset that this is my life?
Yeah.
And she just came back saying, yes, be very gentle with yourself. So it was that honest reflection of, wow, like this is me forevermore, never having had medication for anything, for
Mm.
the odd antibiotic for an infection, but never needing long term lifestyle medication. It became that harsh reality of this is now my life. But
Yeah.
again, there was that reframe of, but I give gratitude that I actually get to do this. And within
Hmm.
6 weeks, I started to notice enhancements in how I felt, how I slept. The kind of vaginal challenges that I was having pretty much all disappeared, which was incredible. And I
Amazing.
started to feel a lot more me again.
Excellent. So was that just estrogen that you were prescribed then, or have you since had testosterone as well, or is it just, what's your preparation of
Yeah.
HRT?
Yeah, so I have HRT, so hormone replacement therapy with my Mirena for the progesterone element.
Mm-hmm.
I have my estrogen gel that I use for my estradiol replacement, and I also have testosterone replacement as well with testo gel. So for my own personal journey, when I had my bloods ran, my female sex hormone profiling ran, we also did my testosterone, and that came back pretty much non-existent. So I'd gone for many
Wow.
years without having appropriate levels of testosterone, and that wasn't, unfortunately, part of what my GP referred to as standard HRT. So standard
Mm-hmm.
HRT in the GP's eyes were progesterone and estrogen replacement, but I did have to go privately initially for my testosterone, and then we had the GP take that over. So prescription is through my NHS GP now.
Yeah. And yet that would have gone a long, long way of making you feel normal again. And, like the Adele that we all know you as now, because
Yeah.
we know that pre perimenopause that we produce 3 times more testosterone than anything else. So for you to have such low levels is
Yes.
really quite impactful.
Definitely. And it's not until afterwards, I think it's reflecting again, gone for so many
Yeah.
years with it being so low. And it was when I
Mm-hmm.
was having the conversation with Dr. Hodson around it all that Zoe said to me, "How are you even functioning?" And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't know, actually. I've just learned to function suboptimally. So again, it's not going to be a fix for everyone. It's not going to be a
Mm-hmm.
solution that we just replace our hormones and then everything feels better. I still had a strong foundation of nutrition and lifestyle factors in there. So of course the HRT was kind of an additional to that. But I would say that within 10
Absolutely.
weeks of starting my testosterone, it's not like an overnight thing. You don't kind of wake up in the morning and you're like, wow, like, oh, I feel like so energized and like next level self. It took
Yeah.
time to build up. But what I started to
Sure.
recognize was, wow, yeah, I'm starting to multitask again, and I'm having all of these great creativity moments, and actually I'm coping a lot better with the stressors of life, and this thing now isn't
Mm-hmm.
bothering me as much. So it did become a little bit more when I took time to do my journaling and reflecting on, where was I 6 months ago to where am I feeling
Yeah.
now, that I started to recognize that actually, yeah, this feels nice.
Excellent. That's so good. I just want to touch on the obviously the other changes that you've made to your lifestyle. Your
Yeah.
diet and your exercise. Would you like to share with us what that kind of looked like? What those changes looked like?
Mm. So we all go through phases, don't we? Where we enjoy
Yeah.
eating out, we enjoy downtime with the family, and that never has to change. And what's important when we come along to understanding what our body wants and needs from us is in listening to it. So, something I vastly encourage my ladies to do as well is to get really connected with what makes you feel good and what are your warning signs, because we will always, always have some suggestive invitations from our environment, from our body, and from the things that we are either using or consuming. And if something flares
Mm-hmm.
up, an itching episode, for example, this was a big one for me, and we start to become really itchy all over our body, and we're not getting any respite from that, that can be an indication that you have a bit of a histamine sensitivity or a histamine intolerance at its extreme. And what we
Yeah.
appreciate is that when estrogen levels are declining so vastly in menopause, we actually do become a little bit less resilient and more resistant towards certain high histamine type foods. So this one is a shocker for some people, but avocados are high histamine foods. I love avocado. It's one of my favorite foods
Yeah.
ever. Of course, love guacamole. So that was a shocker
Absolutely.
for me. Yeah, learning that actually I couldn't have as much avocado. I would love a beautiful full bodied glass of red wine if we're having
Mm.
a steak. Couldn't tolerate it. So this again was signposts from my own body of saying, wait a minute, Adele, this is not good for us right now. This is not working. So number one was become very familiar with the foods and, the consumption of beverages that really make you feel good and those that maybe don't feel as good. Sleep disturbances were a big one for me with certain foods and alcohol.
Yeah.
So I decided not to drink red wine anymore. I decided that actually I would have gin and tonic if we went out. And even at that, the tolerance, that maximum tolerable level became less. So again,
Yeah.
how does my body feel right now? Am I managing the day after having a night out, or am I really struggling for a week? Is it then worth it?
Yeah.
And it's always choice. So I will still have my gin and tonics and my white wine. You will still see me drink a glass of red wine. But now I appreciate that I must take an antihistamine before I have red wine.
Yeah.
So a lot of this was just understanding my body. I made vast changes already in improving protein intake, plant-based foods, all the things all the things we all know, right? But
Yeah.
not denying myself and not denying my family that time of when we head out somewhere and stumble across a beautiful new cafe that we're kind of not like, no, we can't go in there because mum can't have that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's maybe just saying, I'll have a little bit of it rather than, you know, a full, I don't know, a full
Yeah,
cake or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
just being connected to what feels good, what feels right in the moment, but also with the future knowledge of, I know how this food will make me feel if I have more. So again, being
Mm-hmm.
very connected to self was a big one. Lifestyle's huge. So again, I'm well known for the daily steps for health, getting out and moving our body every day in the fresh air, rain, hail, or shine. And then a lot of mindset practices, breath work, journaling,
Mm-hmm.
gratitudes. So this was kind of like the staple of then how I was able to move forward in my own menopause journey and care. And ultimately, how I then developed out the reclamation formula of how we care for ourselves during this time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, so important that we do take time out for ourselves. Even not going through menopause, it's
Yeah.
important that every female takes time out for themselves and doesn't lose themselves along just the journey of life, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it happened, right? It
Ab-
happens.
mm. It does happen, yeah. We get so caught up in our own little bubbles. So, before entering into perimenopause, is there
Mhm.
anything that you wish that you had known beforehand?
I wished I'd known about menopause. I suppose when we look at it that way, I do greatly wish that there had been more conversations, there had been more
Yeah.
knowledge, there had been more discussions like what you're doing now, to
Mm-hmm.
raise the awareness, just the softness of actually this is something that every female will experience and go through, some more severe than others, but actually
Mm-hmm.
I suppose understanding that it was menopause or perimenopause was a really big thing, because speaking with a lot of women, as I do every single day, there are so many women that I speak to that have gone for 7 years, 10 years without knowing that what they've experienced has been menopause. So part of me gives massive
Yeah.
gratitude that I was already in the female hormone health space, that it actually became quite evident quite quickly that it was perimenopause for me. Otherwise, I would be entering into, so this is my 40th year. In August, I turn 40. I would still be entering into my 40th year with GPs still saying, you're far too young for menopause. So
Yeah.
part of me, it gives vast gratitude that I had the knowledge and the surrounding support from that. But I think had this been
Mm-hmm.
built into female education at school, had this been built into awareness, even around, I don't know what the solution is if we were to think about one way of everyone becoming aware of it.
Yeah.
I don't have the answer for that. But what I do have is a strong belief that the more that women come together and talk about this, human beings come together and talk about this,
Yeah.
the less taboo a subject it becomes, and the more it just becomes the awareness that it's going to
Mm-hmm.
happen. This is what it might feel like, and here's how you can get help. That's all we need, those 3
Yeah.
steps.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. So with that then, what advice would you give to other women who are going through it or about to enter the phase of menopause?
So if you already know that you are in perimenopause right now, or you are post-menopause right now, and you already know what stage of your beautiful, powerful, vibrant journey that you are in, is seeing that this is your opportunity to really connect with you again. If you are unsure
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know, you're listening to this and you think, wow, I just don't know if I am or not, then again, it's really connecting back in with what are the key signs or symptoms that you are experiencing. And obviously, Nikki and
Yeah.
myself can support you with understanding more on that. So just reach out to either of us. And what I would say is that there is so much help. Okay, sometimes it's just you have a question. So reaching out and
Yeah.
asking it. Sometimes it's that you actually really, really need support. And again, it's being able to know that you can just reach out and ask for it. And if your GP practice do not have a menopause specialist or a women's health provider in your practice, again, it's understanding that help is literally just one message away. So please do not sit back. Do not think that it's just going to pass, that next week I'll feel better. You just need to ask for
Yeah.
some help. And this can be the difference between you surviving through life for the forevermore,
Yeah.
or actually designing a really vibrant, powerful, happy life. So yeah, this gets to be your choice and your opportunity.
Absolutely. Let's take positive action. Because what's the harm in asking a question, right?
Absolutely.
You're
And
one step
questions
away
can
from
be answered
knowing.
for free.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so, so much, Adele, for joining us today on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And yeah, I think we will speak again soon, for sure.
Thank you so much for having me. It's honestly such a pleasure. I love it. I could speak about this topic all day, every day. And what you're doing is a very beautiful, powerful thing. So thank you for doing this.
Great. Thank you so much again. And yeah, speak soon. Bye now. Thank you for tuning in to Menopause Unplugged. I hope you found the conversation to be informative, enlightening, and empowering. Remember, menopause is a natural part of a woman's life journey, but it doesn't have to be a lonely one. Whether you're experiencing perimenopause or menopause, my menopause coaching program can provide reassurance and guidance. Please do reach out to me through my contact details on the show description. And until next time, take care.